I'm Jackson Long, a mountain athlete from Sun Valley, Idaho, and this June I will be taking on my biggest, craziest endurance challenge of my whole life, the world's longest self-supported bikepacking race from Canada to Mexico called the Tour Divide. I'm really looking forward to taking it on. Self-supported nature of it means that it's all on my own. Clock doesn't stop from the moment you start till you get to the border. Starts in Banff, up in British Columbia in Canada, crosses down over the border into Montana, down through Wyoming, crosses the Great Basin, crosses into Colorado around Steamboat, dips into New Mexico, and then straight shot down to the border. I've been preparing for it, living in a cabin in the woods, teaching cross-country skiing for the winter, mixing it up with the seasons, doing some ski-mo racing, some backcountry skiing. I could never live and train in a place full-time as a cyclist. I mean, I've always been a skier. I grew up skiing. I've always been a cyclist. I grew up riding bikes. But I think what a big part of me, who I am, whether it's in sport or life, I'm never like really that satisfied with just following the same paths. Like, it would be so hard for me to just only ride my bike year round. My whole ethos and philosophy as an athlete, as a coach, and as a person that lives in the mountains is really, how do we connect with the outdoors and ourselves as athletes in a variety of ways. Some bike riding, baby. What's really interesting about these types of events, these really, intense ultra endurance races or projects, things that take so much time to prepare for, so many, layers of preparation, it's a little bit anticlimactic, right? You are focused so much on the preparation and the energy going into getting ready. And then I arrived in Banff and put my bike together and was suddenly on the starting line of the Tour Divide, about to ride my bike to Mexico. And it's something that you can't spend too much mental energy focusing on because it's such an unknown factor. It's such an unknown thing to be embarking on, especially for me as someone who's pretty new to this, specific niche of the sport. And so there's all this kind of nervous energy, anxiety, stress, and worry. Have I done enough? Have I prepared enough? Do I have every piece of gear that I could possibly need? And then you're just off. Someone says go, and everybody starts riding south, and it's just this really special moment where all this stress and anxiety sort of dissipates and just goes away, because now you're riding, you have everything you need, and it doesn't matter how much training you've done, how much preparation that you've built in the gear selection and the course research and all of this stuff. You're just riding your bike.
First few miles down the spray trail, rolling to Mexico, baby. Crazy, it's very surreal. It was very anticlimactic and unorganized how the start happened, but yeah, pretty cool. Rolling with some people, and yeah, just grateful to be here, man. This is such a crazy thing I'm doing right now. beautiful. First grizzly sighting, about 60 miles in. Yeah, right in the road. Luckily it was a small young one and he just moved on his merry way. Coming up to the infamous Cocoa Claims in about 10-ish miles, so yeah, chugging along. You cannot tell from the video probably, but this is Cocoa Claims, about a 2,500 foot, really steep, little 2-track. I'm just walking because it's pretty much just as slow as trying to ride this, and yeah. Okay, top of Cocoa. That was hard. Definitely a slog.
So I roll into Fernie, go to the like main hotel, and I didn't really know I was in the top 5. Even when I got there, I didn't really know, but I kind of realized that I was in a pretty good position, or like at least pretty fast. So that day I was like, okay, this is good. Like I feel good. This feels sustainable. I slept well. I got passed by 1,000 people at night, of course, but I slept like 5 or 6 hours. The next day was the biggest day of my entire divide. It was like 211 miles, and that's the first day we hit snow. Very cold. Cross into the U.S. I was riding with a few other people, including Cade Reichenberger, who ended up being 4th overall, first American. And we just kind of made the call to push into some of these major towns, do a little bit more mileage than maybe originally I'd planned on, to try to get ahead of the storm.
That was grim. That was one of the coldest I've ever been on the bike. It's like rain turning into sleet, into snow. But just crossed the border, officially in Montana.
It's sort of necessary when it's cold and snowing and you're soaking wet all day to get to a hotel where you can shower and, clean your kit and bike and stuff. Okay, day 3. Made a big push to Whitefish yesterday, over 200-mile day. I'm still feeling pretty wrecked, so just gonna eat some breakfast, start rolling, try to make it to Ovando tonight is the goal. It's been a bit of a rough day. My stomach isn't feeling great. It's just kind of been off, and it's been hard to eat. About 90 miles into the day, but I think it's gonna be a long push. It's about 160 miles, so another 70-ish miles or so. Whew. Yeah. It's tough, It's really tough. That was a pretty rough day yesterday from Whitefish to Ovando. Just really long stretch without any resupply, and I ran out of food, and my stomach was messed up. And so, yeah, got into Ovando late. Nothing was open, so couldn't really eat anything. Slept in that teepee. It's rained all night. It's kind of starting to snow. You can see, maybe you can't, but through those days, linking those days, I made a lot of mistakes. This is my first major bikepacking race, ultra race. In a race of this length, small mistakes, small errors.
This is wild.
compound and come back and kind of bite you in the ass. And you can start to dig yourself a little bit of a hole slowly that makes it really hard to climb back out of. It doesn't seem like it on the front end, these little mistakes, but it's a lot easier to dig yourself a hole, but a lot harder to climb out of it. That morning, nothing was open in the town. And basically, I found a bed and breakfast that was kind enough to feed me and give me some snacks. But other than that, basically for over 100 miles, there was a stretch of no resupply. I didn't really realize this at the time. Rationing food is never a good thing when you're riding 175 miles. And the cold and the cold days beforehand, combined with the sudden increase in temperature, impacted me really negatively. And I think that's where my body started to like freak out. And I roll into Island Park, zero energy. My stomach was in shambles. I couldn't really eat. And I was also having a hard time getting a full breath. Getting into that state was huge because I was close to home, right? I was only a few hundred miles from Sun Valley. So I think it was really mentally tough to just be like, well, I could just ride home right now and just be done with this. And B, it was also early in the race, meaning early in the route. There was still, close to 2,000 miles left to ride. So all of that was just swirling and storming, and I felt horrible, and I was just trying to navigate this. I mean, I was so close to scratching. I was so close to quitting at this point. Like, I wanted to. I couldn't imagine, continuing.
I'm feeling pretty emotional right now, but stayed an extra day in Island Park. Spent the night here last night. Just needed a rest day, basically. My body was getting really swollen. My legs, face, and everything are still pretty puffy. Today a little bit better, but yeah, this race is crazy, and honestly, I came to a pretty big realization yesterday in that I wasn't enjoying this because I was so focused on racing. I was gripping so tightly to the concept of racing and pushing myself so hard, and although I was feeling good and was obviously up there, it didn't feel right, and it didn't feel like enjoying my bike ride. It was just staring at the computer screen, focused on counting down the miles to get to the next checkpoint, instead of enjoying being out here and the gratitude that comes with that, and just destroying my body. Obviously, it was very hard, and a lot of that comes with doing a bike ride like this, but I'm actually feeling okay right now riding. So I think it was the right call to back it off and say, you know what, I'm still in this, but I don't need to be pushing, so hard.
How you feeling about Tour Divide?
Oh, it's a long ways off, but it's really not that far away. I mean, it's less than 6 months at this point. So, yeah, just right now wrapping my head around all the gear that I'll need. I'm just looking forward to having some more time off this spring. Kind of focus on the bike-specific training. So I'm just taking it kind of day by day, just trying to get in some volume the last few weeks.
How do you train for a bike race without biking?
We're looking at it.
Focusing more on skimo in the winter and doing races that were an hour to 3 hours long mainly, and kind of training by powder skiing and doing laps on our local ski hill, is not necessarily what most would consider to be the best way to train. But for something like the Tour Divide, yes, you need to have a lot of miles on the bike. There's no doubt about it. And as soon as I could, I was riding a lot. But I was living in a small cabin in the woods at 7,000 feet, cross-country skiing and ski mountaineering and backcountry skiing and skimo racing. That creates a level of versatility and durability that is required on the Divide. The Tour Divide tests you in many, many more ways than just the strength of your legs. You know, you have to be well-rounded. You have to be self-sufficient and comfortable in pretty gnarly terrain, pretty gnarly situations, pretty intense levels of discomfort. And there's nothing like staring down the barrel of a steep couloir in a snowstorm to help you with that sort of mental preparation of calm in the storm. I really did surprise myself.
I'm a strong believer in mixing it up. Hopefully it'll pay off. I have no idea.
I'm just grateful to be here, you know. Listening to my body. I think I made the right call. I was feeling really down and self-doubt and pity last night and this morning, and I so badly wanted to pull the plug yesterday and just ride home, and I think it would have been a mistake, you know.
On the edge of the Great Basin of Wyoming, so we spent the night, and so that we could be well set up for the strike on the infamous Great Basin, which is about a 100-mile stretch of just open, barren nothingness.
So just filled up, and yeah, just gonna ride at my own pace, solo, see how it goes. Going through a pretty rough patch again, as is the case with this. Just like 30 miles outside of Brush Mountain Lodge, but it's just been so hot. The heat has been getting to me. It's been over 100 here in this like desolate Wyoming landscape, and it's been sucking my energy. Made it to Colorado and the halfway point. Steamboat, big milestone. Bike shop put on a fresh chain. and got a burrito, starting to feel better. So I'm just gonna keep pedaling, keep rolling. Good state, good state.
You know, no matter who you are and you're embarking on the Tour Divide and you're riding, there's so much that happens in a single day that you're getting so much out of the experience by just pedaling, whether or not you're caring about racing or your position or the dots or whatever. And I think there's a balance in the middle somewhere, and I'm still kind of discovering that for myself. But that total kind of shift that I had when I was in Island Park was that the current way that I was approaching this race, this adventure race, was not working for me. And I think that is a big lesson, and probably the biggest lesson that I learned on the entire thing is that everybody is having their own experience, and that's the whole point. It's a solo, self-supported race, and there's some blurred lines in there, and you know, it's kind of like divided lines, right? I mean, it's part of this whole concept of approaching things as an athlete in your own way, and it doesn't have to look like someone else's way. It doesn't have to, you know, be perfect. I think paradoxically, so many athletes are gripped so tightly to that identity around performance and race results and what position your dot is in or what position you finish on the result sheet that's taped to a porta potty at the end of the day, right? Like, that's real. And by simply completing the thing, or simply getting through the first week, or simply making it to Colorado or the halfway point, or riding 1,000 miles self-supported, is, in that stretch of time, so much happens. You change as a person, you change as an athlete, you develop new skills, new strengths, new confidence. And so that's winning already, right? That's already success, no matter what position in the race you are.
First proper thunderstorm. I hope it's short-lived, because I'm up at like 10,000 feet. But it's gonna push through. I don't know. Whoa, that was pretty fucking wild. Up on that road, it's kind of high, paved road, just lightning blasts like right next to me. Some peanut butter mud. Super fun. Just keep getting mud everywhere, and the sun's out, but I think it's just playing it all up. Holy shit. Well, this day has gotten worse, as if it could. Just took a pretty big crash. It's been muddy and slipped out on some mud and lost my front wheel. And kind of landed on my wrist and my knee, and I'm pretty sure my wrist is broken. It just really hurts to ride. It was okay for a little bit, and then it started to swell and be really painful riding. So unfortunately, I'm on a very technical single track section of the CDT trail. So it's obviously very hard to ride, but I'm gonna try to keep going to get to a campground that's in like 20 miles or so, and sort of assess what I should do. But I kind of think my race is over at this point, unfortunately. I can't imagine riding another 700 miles on this. It's just like fully stiff and super painful. So that's what's going on. I was kind of on my own at this point, riding through this forested section of kind of double track rugged road just before this new section that they added this year, which is an 18-mile really rugged, gnarly, exposed single track section of the Continental Divide trail, the CDT, which is a hiking trail. This section's open to bikes.
It's not been used in the Tour Divide before, but it's just really, it's beautiful. I mean, it's incredible, but it was like really chunky, rough, gnarly exposed. Single track. Was coming around a corner just on the road before the section and just hit this patch of super greasy mud that I didn't really see, and instantly just front wheel gone, flying through the air like this, landed on my wrist, slammed my ribs, I think, on my bike, but I think the adrenaline and the sort of shock and everything was like, it hadn't caught up yet, so I just like busted out my med kit, cleaned up my knee, and just kept going. So I was like, it's a super remote stretch, there's nothing. You're basically like 30 plus miles from any sort of paved road. I thought I could make it through this 18-mile single track section, which then ends near a paved road where I could reassess, try to get to Abiquiu, which is the next main town. So I started riding on the single track, and pretty quickly realized that I wasn't able to ride. It was like I couldn't bear weight on my wrist. It was swelling up, super huge, getting really painful.
But I was able to make it to a campground nearby with a pit toilet, which is where I am so glamorously hanging out. I'm warm, dry, I have food and water. Search and rescue is on the way. Not how I wanted this trip to end, but yeah, my wrist is definitely broken. I can't bear any weight. It's just getting worse with the kind of adrenaline wearing off, and I also think I kind of bruised a rib and cut up my knee, and I'm so bummed. So frustrating. I was feeling so good. I was really finding the flow and settling in and getting stronger and looking forward to the last state, really. You know, the last 700 miles, it was like home stretch. So yeah, I'm really just sad right now. So I guess I'm just gonna hang here and figure out what's next.
As much as it hurts and as much as it feels like a failure on the surface, deep down I've spent a lot of time in the last couple of days recognizing the inherent growth and success that this project has already been, even just getting to the start line. And honestly, the rough patch, meltdown, whatever you want to call it, that I had in Island Park early on, I was this close to pulling the plug, to scratching there, because I was in a place of fear, in a place of unknown, in a place of a pretty big obstacle in terms of my physical health. And so to even make it through that, I think is a success, and over that hump was a big one. So to make it to New Mexico, to over 2,000 miles of riding, fully self-supported, is massive, and I think that's a huge success. Obviously, it sucks to not make it to the very end, but I also recognized and learned that I'm capable of so much more than I had realized. I feel we are all so much more capable than we think, and we can get through really rough moments, whether it's mentally, physically, and that if you kind of, it's a pretty big cliche, but if you kind of set your mind to something and you take it day by day, it's pretty amazing what you can accomplish.